with DNN Dave. Hope everybody's doing well this evening. I am coming to you live, and I am excited because tonight I've got a couple of guests with me. You've known them for years in the DNN community, and they are here tonight to talk a little bit about DNN Summit 2022. So please welcome Mitch and Cassidy. Hey, Mitch and Cassidy, how's it going?
Good.
Good.
Thanks
Good
for
to see
having
you
us.
guys. Hope everything's going well. Let me see. Mitch, it looks like it's pretty cold where you're at over there.
Not quite as cold as the picture looks, but it's been getting close.
And no coat too. That's pretty.
Ah.
It's pretty impressive. I mean, real man there. Cassie, how's the weather out there where you are? Is it you guys under snow yet, or?
Yeah, we're finally starting to get some. It's been a slow start, so a little bit more snow than in Mitch's picture there. But it's finally getting cold, and we need a couple more storms. But yeah.
Just keep them your way, Cassidy, please.
Yes.
Well, for those that do not know you guys, take a minute just to introduce yourself and particularly share what your role is with DNN Association and how that relates to DNN Summit. Cassidy, how about you first?
All right. So I'm Cassidy Peterson, and I'm the president of the DNN Association. I've been involved in the association since its inception, which I think was 2017. And yeah, so I've helped plan and organize and get this thing off the ground. And personally, I've been involved with DNN since version 1 back in 2003, I guess, and my company actively involved in developing DNN every day. So that's 10 Pound Gorilla. But yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Cassidy. How about you, Mitch?
So I am the treasurer and speaker coordinator for DNN Association. So I, focus a little bit more on helping make sure that we get the speakers coordinated for the events, and then I do all of the financial fun stuff for the organization. Been around, obviously, DNN as well for a long time and serve as the technology advisory group lead. And, really here to, help continue to promote and evangelize DNN Nuke and, making sure that people are aware of, what's going on and how to do things, in the best way possible with DNN.
Awesome. You guys have one other board member too as well, and I think he couldn't be with us tonight, but would one of you mind sharing who that is and what his role is?
Cassidy, good.
Yeah, so Mark is our Mark Busling's our other board member, and he's our vice president, and so he ends up helping with kind of just more, I guess, technical odds and ends stuff in terms of execution. But the three of us work together to give a greater volunteer group direction in terms of what are we going to be doing this year and etc. So don't want the three of us to take all the credit, because we do have a whole group of folks that help us make sure this happens, including yourself, Dave. Give you a little credit.
I appreciate that. And I know Ryan Moore, Don Gingold, who am I missing here? Will Stroll pipes in every once in a while. Of course, this event is really an evolution of community events from way back. I mean, I think it started out with the day of .NET Nuke that Will Stroll started, and eventually evolved into, what was it next? It was we had the day of DNN, and then of course Corp had some community conferences as well out in Open Force out in Vegas. So it's interesting. We're kind of coming full circle back to Vegas. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so.
I just wanted to tease a little bit there, for those that don't know that piece of it. We'll get to it in just a minute. Of course, then there was the DNN cons, those, and then actually the DNN Connect over in Europe, and then DNN Summit, which the development of the association that you guys are. So I'm excited about this year, and let's see. The event is a little bit different now, right? Because we're in a little different state of the world right now. And last year, I guess, was the first year you guys actually did a virtual conference, right? I know there was probably a lot of hesitation on your part, on how that was going to go or what to expect with that. But from what I understand, it was a pretty big success, wasn't it?
Absolutely. I think we didn't know when we started out with the virtual event, right? We knew we couldn't do a in-person event, so we decided to give we couldn't do in person, so we gave the virtual event a try, and we ended up setting pretty close to an attendance record of any community ran event, including the largest in persons. I think we were maybe 5 or 10 attendees short of beating the attendance record from any other in-person event that was community ran. So it was, by all definitions, a great success.
That's pretty cool. I know it was probably a surprise for you guys for that. And I'm sure there were probably some attendees, and we'll get into some of the details of the virtual aspect in a little bit, but I'm sure that gave an opportunity for some people to attend the event that would have never had the ability to go to an in-person event, which traditionally has been what these community events have been.
Yeah, and that's actually the number one bit of feedback was, I can't travel to an event, or instead of sending one person from our team and then the rest come back, and then they come back and train the rest, they're like, well, the whole team went because we were able to. And that was, I think, the biggest difference.
That's pretty cool. Okay, so some people may be watching this going, well, what are you guys even talking about? What is the DNN Summit? Nasty, what the heck is DNN Summit, and why should anybody want to even attend?
Yeah. So DNN Summit's an educational conference with its sole intention of, either introducing DNN to folks who aren't as familiar, or all the way up to advanced users, allowing them to come just get those kind of minutia and little details to fine tune their craft within the DNN space. We get a whole group of speakers throughout the globe that really are experts in the platform, and they teach at all levels. So it's a little bit for everybody, and all the way from just basic users to really kind of back-end server side technical. So there is something for everybody. We really try to focus on our tracks to make sure that we can have something for everybody, and not just in one session, but really throughout the 2 days. So it is a 2-day event, and this year it's hybrid, which it's the first year we've done that. So we just talked about how last year was a virtual event, and we did receive a lot of positive feedback on the virtual aspect, and people really asked, please, please, please do that again, because for all the reasons Mitch mentioned, it was easier for them to attend. And still, with the world in the state it is, travel and those kind of things are up in the air. So we wanted to give the ability for folks to still be in person, because that personal aspect is just amazing. You get to network, you really get to learn a lot from one another when you're in that same room, kind of environment space. So we didn't want to 100% give that up, but we wanted to make sure all of the content was accessible to as many people as possible. So the conference this year will be virtual, and then we're doing an in-person social event in Vegas. So kind of best of both worlds from that side of things.
Okay, so if I go to this thing in person, are there going to be rooms set up and speakers speaking in those rooms? Or, you just mentioned the conference is virtual. So,
yeah.
Because I'm sure some people could be confused about this. Clarify that a little bit.
Yeah, so the conference itself will be virtual. So when you're there, I'm sure we'll have people getting together, getting in the same rooms, watching sessions together virtually through their machines. But that portion of it will all be virtual. We are looking at doing some business roundtables and kind of DNN roundtables after the conference is over, the virtual conference, shall I say. So there will be some opportunity for some sessions that are only available at the conference themselves, but it'll only be a handful of those. And then we are doing kind of a key kickoff social event at Top Golf. So that'll be a 3-hour event with unlimited golf and drinks and some appetizers as well. So folks can really kind of network, have a good time. We'll also try to be, connecting folks and, hopefully doing some meetups in lobbies and some other things like that and going to dinner together just so folks can really connect, do that networking that is so critical at our in-person events, but still be able to then watch the virtual conference and hopefully together and talk and chat while it's all happening.
Okay, cool. So were those, I guess, the things that are indicated on the schedule here for the conference, will this also include some of those in-person things, or is that kind of being handled there? I'm sure there'll probably be a smaller group of people there. How is that being communicated?
Yeah, so we haven't finalized the in-person events because we weren't sure of like our actual full attendance and what the group sizes would be. So that'll be more as it gets close. We'll be releasing those details. So everything that you see on the schedule is virtual right now.
Okay, so that's kind of the point I was hoping to get across is I guess what people can depend on is what they see here on the schedule right now is what you will experience in the virtual experience if you do register for the event. So that's good to know. I guess Mitch, what kind of content really can we expect this year? Is it more of the same type of things that's been in the past, or do you see a healthy mix of some new stuff in it?
So we have a pretty good mix. We always try to take and balance a mix of developer-centric, designer-centric, as well as marketing and administrator type content, because we know that not everybody that uses DNN is a developer. Not everyone that uses DNN is a big marketing savvy person as well. So we try to have a good mix of content across across that audience spectrum. And as we look at what we're doing and how we have some of that stuff together, I think we're definitely introducing some new things. Where there's some content specifically around some of the more recent things. As we continue to evolve forward with future design patterns, improvements in the platform. There was more talks on security and things this year to continue to drive home the importance of security compliance within installations, especially for those that are on older versions of DNN. Security is still of the utmost importance. So a pretty good variety, and should be something there for anyone, including those that are brand new to the platform and those that have been around for a long time.
Thanks. Cassidy, one thing I've noticed here that's a little bit different this year, you guys have, I guess these are tracks, but you have a track for sponsors here. Is that something different that you're doing this year? Or, because I think last year sponsors had like a room or something within the platform, which we'll talk about the platform in a minute. But is this something new here?
Yeah, so last year they had virtual booths and you could kind of pop in and chat live like we're doing right now with the sponsors. Our sponsors really are just a fantastic source of knowledge. They're very active members in the DNN community and just great resources. So we wanted to kind of give a win-win situation where the sponsors could get a little bit more attention, but also then get, kind of share their knowledge with the attendees. So the sponsors that were interested have put together dedicated sessions that have really good content in it. And the purpose isn't to promote the business, but just for you to really hear directly from them and for them to knowledge share on some fun topics. So I think it'll be really kind of a nice add to the conference this year.
Yeah, that'll be neat to hear kind of a full session from the sponsors and get a little bit more insight. I'm assuming some of them will talk a little bit more about their business offerings, things like that. Great. Mitch, tell me a little bit about the platform that we'll be using for the conference this year. And how does that work? I mean, for people that have not attended a virtual conference before, they may be wondering, how does this work? Like, how do I can I talk to people? Can I interact? That kind of thing. Tell us a little bit about the experience.
Yeah, so the platform that we're using is called Hopin. It's the same platform that we were using last year for the virtual event. Hopin does everything it can to make the events as interactive as possible. And a lot of the things that you're used to in the traditional, in-person events are kind of brought into that virtual space. So we have the main stage, which is where the keynote sessions and those kinds of things are held. Those environments are a little bit less, direct feedback from the attendees. We then also have breakout sessions where you have concurrent sessions going on. You can freely bounce between those sessions. At any point in time throughout. And then there's also the expo booths, and that's kind of what we were talking about before, where the vendors will have either pre-recorded videos where they've got some whatever the marketing bits are for their company or their support for DNN, ways to get a hold of them, or when we have set hours during the event. They should have individuals there where you can go on camera or otherwise and chat with the vendors, learn more about their services, how they might be able to help you. And then at the end, one of the things people always ask at the virtual event is, oh my gosh, I want to be able to see these two sessions at the same time. Since everything is online and everything's done through the Hopin platform, we'll have all sessions recorded, and all attendees will get access to the recordings of those sessions within a couple of weeks after the end of the event. So it makes for a fairly seamless user experience. All browser-based, nothing to install, nothing to download on your computer. You can just simply go to the Hopin site, join the event, and browse around.
Now, Mitch, I've heard of some people, we won't mention any names, but some people that have opened multiple browsers during these virtual events and actually attended more like sessions than you would expect, like 4 different sessions going on at one time, and they're just kind of turning the audio on and off of it. That's pretty crazy, huh?
It is, and it's allowed, and it is something that we've seen. I discourage that because you lose some of that value, but it is definitely something you can do. If you're a speaker, please don't do that.
Hey, but if you're good at multitasking, I mean, shoot, go ahead and go for it, So I guess to segue into Mitch, I'll stick with you on this one. Well, and Cassie, you feel free to pipe in as well if you have some thoughts on it. But what excites you this year about the speakers that are set up? I mean, are we expected to see the same roster that we've seen in the past? Are there any new faces? You guys had kind of a motivation to broaden the speaker pool this year.
We continually try to broaden the speaker pool. I think we have a few new speakers this year. I would always encourage us to have even more new speakers. But I do think that this year is one of the years where we haven't had to tap into as many of the speakers for multiple sessions as we have had to do in the past. So we continue to get things, and we always encourage prior speaking experience is not required for these events. Right? We want to get and have the speakers that are going to be able to share their knowledge with the community. You'll see that we have a few speakers that haven't necessarily been around for a while, and they're back, which is kind of nice, and a few new faces. So really it's all about to deliver content to the attendees that is going to be valuable and based on real world experience. So
that's great. Cassie, does anything stand out to you about this year's pool of speakers that, not trying to put you on the spot, but to put you on the spot,
Yeah, I don't know. I do think, we do have some of the same consistent speakers that have been really strong in the past and always deliver kind of phenomenal sessions. And I think what I noticed this year is, sometimes we see some recycled content just because it is so valuable, but there's kind of a lot of fresh ideas. So, with the internet, stuff's always changing and, technology's changing. But I think there's some new concepts that we haven't really talked about in the past, and you're seeing that coming in. So I'm excited for that because especially folks who come year after year, they're going to have a tough time deciding which sessions to listen to.
You bring up a pretty good point here, and I've been asked this before. A lot of recurring speakers, they'll have the same session title that people may have seen in the past. But one thing I've found is that content is refreshed to be current and so forth. So while the title may be the same, don't expect the content to necessarily be the exact same as what you've seen before. I know a lot of the speakers do a good job of updating that. Things evolve and progress with technology, so forth. So
yeah, totally agreed there. And there's just things that are, always hot topics. And so it's what's the latest in that arena, right? So there's just always fresh new content, which is nice to see.
So, two questions, I guess, or one just to kind of make a point. For those of you that have not registered for the conference, please be sure to register. You can go to just about any page of the website, and I've noticed a couple of them that are missing. I'll fix that, guy. Fix that. But click on the register, and that'll give you an opportunity to register on the Hopin platform. But the other is, I was going to mention for sponsorships, there may be some companies out there that are interested in sponsoring and may look at this page thinking, oh, okay, well, they've got it covered. Do you guys have it covered? Are you still accepting sponsorships? What does that process look like?
Always accepting additional sponsors. We do have some limited ability just based on timing of what it takes to get everything in. That to be guaranteed all of the benefits listed for any of the particular sponsor levels. We really do need to get people added no later than January 1st to be able to guarantee that. But we will accept sponsors at any point in time. Feel free to fill out the form. Or you can, just reach out directly to us and we'll gladly answer any questions that you might have.
Okay, great. That's good. So let's wrap it up this way. I want to hear from each of you. What is your favorite memory? Cassie, we'll start with you. What is your favorite memory from a DNN community event in the past?
So that's hard because there's so many. And one is that great photo of you and I from Orlando. That was a really good time. That was a great photo to capture that moment. But I have to, so like in being, fair to the fact that I have so many good ones, I think for me it was going back to the 2017 DNN event in Denver, and that being kind of our inaugural event. And just like the closing session of that, just looking at the number of people and the positive feedback that we had received and how excited people were to have been at the event, how much they learned. And then to watch that transition into the social event where we literally filled a busload of folks and shuttled them up to the Rocky Mountains to go skiing and tubing. And it was just kind of this moment that was like, wow, we really made a difference. And so I have to say, I think that's just one of my favorite memories.
That is great. Mitch, what about you?
I have the same problem as Cassidy. I mean, there's so many of them, many that we probably shouldn't speak of, but I had to say that it's really the same thing in every event, and it's kind of what Cassidy mentioned, right? It's seeing the experience after. Right? Whether it's the in-person events, whether it's even what we did virtually, the sessions are great. The vendors are great. The booths are great. But where the real value, the real knowledge, the real power of this community is seeing what happens after. The conversations that got sparked during the closing session, during the roundtable, that then span into I believe last year it was somewhere around the lines of 4,000 chat messages that were all had in the span of like an hour after the closing session, last year, or the how many times have we closed down how many bars over the years? But it's the same concept, right? It's the stuff that you get after the event. And I think if there's anything, it's the reason why we've done the optional social event, is because there are some of us that have been around for so long that do see the extra value, and I think we do. But we also understand that, current COVID times and everything else, we couldn't take financial risk to hold an in-person event. We can do some stuff to try to help blend both worlds. Maybe it'll be a great success and we'll have a whole bunch of people and it'll be awesome. Or maybe there'll just be a few of us having a really good time in Vegas. I'm not sure, but those are the things for me, the memories, the friendships. That's what it's about.
That's what I was going to say too. I have so many memories and funny memories, and those memories we do not speak of and all that good stuff. But the big takeaway, I guess, from these events, and this can happen virtually as well, is the connections that you make, the friendships that you make. And, you just never know when you need something in this community, question or something like that. It's just, maybe you just make a connection at one of these conferences that just lasts for years and years. I mean, I can't remember when I met you guys, but I mean, we've been friends for years and years now because of it. And I really appreciate that and value that highly. In a virtual setting, you can actually have breakout rooms and so forth as well. So that's something I wanted to mention here. And there are ways to connect one-on-one with not only sponsors, but just other attendees.
There's something, there's something to that I really think we should call attention to. And I don't think we did last year. We didn't get as much usage of it as I think we could. Hopin has this express networking kind of thing, where basically you just get matched up with another random attendee, and you get a set amount of time. And I cannot remember right now off the top of my head, but it's something like 90 seconds or 2 minutes, and it's just an introduction. And it's like you get to introduce each other. If you decide that it was a great conversation, you can choose at the end of it to share your contact info. And doing that last year was a fun way to meet some new people and just get that quick, hi, hey, who are you and what might we do and that kind of thing. So there are ways to do that with those online platforms, and I really encourage it, because it's sometimes even easier than the in-person events. You're not trying to walk up to a crowd of people that have been deep in conversation, trying to find your way into that conversation.
Yeah, exactly. I had several people mention to me how they loved it. They kind of called it like speed dating, but for networking.
Yep.
But not really.
You must have been talking to Alessandra, because I believe that she was the big fan of it.
She did mention that, actually. She loved it. I mean, it's a great little feature there. So let's wrap this thing up. I thank you guys for joining. Again, DNN Summit 2022 is February the 9th and 10th for the virtual conference. And we do have the in-person social events out in Vegas if you so desire to venture out of your norm and go and have a bit of fun with us in the community. Cassidy, thank you for joining me. Mitch, thank you for joining me. And I hope everyone has a wonderful night. Do you guys have any parting words?
Thanks, Dave. You did a great job. Appreciate it.
Thanks, David. Really look forward to seeing everybody again at the event, and hopefully at some point maybe we'll be able to do some real true in-person events at some point in the future.
Well, we can only hope, right? Okay. Take care, everybody. Have a good one.